For centuries, millions of people around the world have believed that the story of the Bible begins and ends in Europe and the Middle East. Rome, Jerusalem, Canterbury, these names dominate popular imagination. Yet far from these familiar narratives, deep in the Horn of Africa, lies one of the most remarkable and least discussed spiritual legacies on earth. It is a legacy preserved not in marble cathedrals or imperial archives, but in living tradition, ancient language, and unwavering faith. The Ethiopian Bible is not only one of the oldest complete Christian Bibles in existence, it is also the most complete. While most modern Bibles contain 66 books, the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church preserves a canon of 81 books. This makes it unique in the Christian world, and its existence raises profound questions about history, faith, and whose stories have been centered and whose have been overlooked. To understand why the Ethiopian Bible matters, we must first understand Ethiopia itself. Ethiopia is one of the world's oldest continuous civilizations. It is the only African nation that successfully resisted European colonization, preserving its institutions, culture, language, and spiritual traditions across millennia. Christianity arrived in Ethiopia not through European missionaries, but organically, deeply rooted in the region's early contact with the ancient world. By the early 4th century, around AD 330, Ethiopia had officially adopted Christianity, centuries before many parts of Europe. This means that when Christianity was still persecuted in Rome, it was already flourishing openly in Africa. The Ethiopian Bible is written primarily in Ge'ez, an ancient Semitic language that is no longer spoken conversationally but remains alive in liturgy and scripture. Ge'ez is one of Africa's oldest written languages, and through it, Ethiopian monks preserved texts that were later excluded from Western biblical canons. These include books such as Enoch, Jubilees, the Book of the Covenant, Didascalia, and the Maccabean texts, not to be confused with the Maccabees found in Catholic or Orthodox Bibles elsewhere. The Book of Enoch alone is significant. Quoted directly in the New Testament, referenced by early Christian scholars, and deeply influential in early theology, it later disappeared from most biblical traditions. Yet in Ethiopia, it was never lost. It was never removed. It was never hidden away. It remained part of the living scripture, read, studied, and passed down through generations. This raises an important point. The Ethiopian Bible was not shaped by later European councils. It did not pass through medieval political filters. It was not standardized under imperial authority. Instead, it followed a continuous African Christian tradition that valued preservation over revision. Faith in Ethiopia is inseparable from history. According to Ethiopian tradition, the Solomonic dynasty traces its lineage to King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Their son, Menelik I, is believed to have brought the Ark of the Covenant from Jerusalem to Aksum. Whether one approaches this claim through faith, history, or symbolism, its impact is undeniable. Ethiopia is the only nation in the world whose national identity is deeply intertwined with the Ark. Every Ethiopian Orthodox church contains a tablet, a sacred replica of the Ark, housed in the innermost sanctuary. This is not decorative, it is central. Without a tablet, a church is not considered complete. During major festivals such as Timkat, these tablets are carried in solemn procession, reminding believers that faith is not locked away in museums, but carried among the people. Ethiopia's Christian tradition also protected early believers during times of persecution elsewhere. When Roman authorities hunted Christians, Ethiopia offered refuge. When theological debates fractured the early church, Ethiopian Christianity maintained its distinct theological identity, emphasizing unity, continuity, and spiritual discipline. This history is rarely taught. Much of global religious education has focused on Europe as the custodian of Christianity, often presenting Africa as a late recipient. Yet the Ethiopian Bible challenges this narrative directly. Africa did not merely receive Christianity, Africa preserved it. When political pressures reshaped scripture elsewhere, Ethiopia maintained its canon. When colonization erased indigenous spiritual histories across the continent, Ethiopia stood firm. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church developed one of the world's oldest monastic traditions. Its monasteries, some carved into rock faces and isolated mountain plateaus, became centers of scholarship, prayer, and manuscript preservation. Handwritten texts were protected through wars, famines, and global upheavals, not by empires, but by devoted communities. Why then is this story not widely known? Part of the answer lies in power. European colonial narratives often minimized African contributions to civilization, faith, and knowledge. Religious authority became associated with Western institutions, while African spiritual traditions were dismissed as secondary or derivative. Ethiopia's independence disrupted this framework. Its Bible did not require Western validation, and as a result, it was often ignored. But history does not disappear because it is overlooked. Today, renewed global interest in early Christianity, ancient manuscripts, and suppressed texts has brought the Ethiopian Bible back into conversation. Scholars now acknowledge what Ethiopian tradition has always known, that Africa holds one of the most authentic and complete records of early Christian scripture. This matters not only for theologians, but for Africans everywhere. The Ethiopian Bible is a reminder that Africa has always been a source of knowledge, not merely a destination. It affirms that African civilizations were documenting, interpreting, and preserving sacred texts while much of the world was still forming its institutions. It challenges narratives that frame Africa as late, peripheral, or dependent. Ethiopia's role as host to the African Union further reinforces its symbolic position. Addis Ababa is not only a diplomatic capital, but a spiritual and historical anchor. It stands as a living bridge between ancient heritage and modern African unity. Understanding the Ethiopian Bible is not about religious competition or superiority. It is about historical accuracy, cultural dignity, and restoring balance to global narratives. It is about recognizing that Africa's spiritual contributions are foundational, not supplementary. In an age where identity is often contested, Ethiopia offers a powerful example of continuity. Its Bible was not lost, its faith was not interrupted, its history was not erased. Africa's story did not begin with colonization, nor did its spiritual wisdom arrive from elsewhere. It was here, preserved by communities who understood the value of memory, tradition, and truth. As the world continues to rediscover ancient knowledge, the Ethiopian Bible stands quietly, patiently, as it always has, complete, intact, and alive. If this story deepened your understanding of Africa's heritage, gently tap the like button so more people can discover it. Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments. And subscribe to Voice of Africa, where African stories are told with dignity, clarity, and truth. Until next time, stay informed, stay grounded, and always stand with Africa.